So we have some very, very interesting information going on right now about Bioware and apparently their hiring practices when it comes to their studio. Now, Bioware has been known to be a studio that is massively affected by DEI. I don't think anybody's going to be shocked hearing that, considering what we have seen with Dragon Age the Veilguard. I think it's pretty easy to say that. But Bioware has allegedly been discriminating against men specifically and only hiring people who would parrot and embrace the ideology that the higher-ups are demanding from their employees down below.
Call me, traitor to our country!
Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that's happening in a lot of studios. I think Ubisoft is a prime example of that, where that company is so far down the rabbit hole when it comes to DEI that if you don't bend the knee and do exactly what you're told, you're basically out the door. And this is something we've talked about for a long time. And you guys know I have my conspiracy about white men in the gaming industry, where they make up the majority of trans people in the industry. And it's simply because they don't want to lose their careers, right? That's my conspiracy. It has nothing to do about identity. In my opinion, it has everything to do about people who've been working in the industry for 10 to 15 years. They've had a nice cushy job and now their job is absolutely on the line, and they know that because they're getting kicked out if they're not diverse enough. And some people have been kicked out. Some white men have been fired because they haven't chosen to bend the knee or become another identity or whatever. But you have a lot of white men becoming trans people because it protects them against DEI firing. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Part Plays. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says a new rumor alleges that Bioware is discriminating against men when it comes to hiring and is only hiring individuals who will parrot and embrace the ideology that the higher-ups demand. This rumor comes from YouTuber Endymion, who alleges his information comes from both former and current Bioware employees. He shared that one of the employees who currently works at Bioware informed him that the current Bioware is more woke than anyone is thinking right now. Like, they're so identity politically driven over there right now, this very instant, that whatever you think it is, it's so much worse than that. Apparently, it's more so about getting more women into these companies than anyone else. Men are pretty much excluded entirely unless they identify as some form of non-whatever, and so on. He added, at Bioware anyway, as I was told, they are only interested in hiring people who they can control within the company. They want essentially what can only be considered as cultists that parrot and embrace the ideology that the higher-ups at Bioware demand. Now, this particular source that Endymion is using sounds eerily familiar from the source that I know that reached out to Smash JT. And we tried to get him to talk on camera and have a conversation, but it never actually worked out, unfortunately. But it's almost the exact same thing that particular person, told Smash JT that I know of, right? Without saying names or anything like that, because that's their source. They decide what they want to do with it. So this particular source, I believe, because this one sounds eerily similar, if not probably the same person. Endymion then stated Bioware, as we know it, is a corpse being worn by EA, which, I mean, we knew that, right? Like, Bioware hasn't been Bioware since probably Andromeda, and definitely Anthem. Once Anthem landed and crashed, I mean, at that point, everybody knew Bioware was garbage, right? Anybody who had faith in Bioware completely threw that faith out the window, and they haven't been the topic of conversation for years. Only up until now is there suddenly a conversation around Bioware because they're releasing Dragon Age the Veilguard. But let's be real, this game would have been a lot more successful if, number one, they respected their fan base who were fans of Dragon Age and actually gave them what they wanted. Right now, the game's at almost 70,000 players. I guarantee you this game would have been easily well over 100,000, without a doubt, if they had actually gave the fans what they want and didn't do the DEI nonsense. But I guess for them, they're willing to take this number and be happy with it while shilling for the message. But let's be honest here, like I've been saying in every video, because I know the journalists and I know the shills and I know everybody is going to be like, oh, this is a massive win. You guys are so unbelievably disingenuous. It's insane, because you never want to actually talk about the financials of it. You only want to talk about the optics, right? You only want to talk about how it looks. So overall, when you look at this game, you think, wow, 70,000 concurrent. That's so good, even though that's about a little over half of what Sparking Zero is. But that's besides the point. You got beat up by a fighting game as a Dragon Age franchise. That's hilarious. But number two, You're not talking about the financials, right? This game's budget is well over $200 million, well over. I would probably even argue it's closer to 300 because it was 3 iterations of this game over 10 years. So the budget is massive in this game. This game would have to sell millions and millions of copies to even come close to breaking even. And the game right now is probably, if you look at these numbers, most likely going to sell, if I had to guess, 500,000 copies maybe on Steam, maybe 600,000. And then by the end of the year, once holiday season comes around, maybe a million copies on Steam. And then you're going to have, let's say, another 500,000 or so on console, maybe even a million. I said it was going to sell 1 to 1.5 million copies. Maybe it'll get to 2. Who really knows? But the people saying that it needs to get to 12, like Inquisition, you really think this game's going to get 12 million copies? Are you out of your mind? You don't have that kind of fan base anymore. Most of the people have ejected Cedo, and a lot of the people who played this game, 70,000 people right now, a lot of them are streamers, including myself, just being honest with you. So this game's going to experience a pretty hard drop off. That's pretty obvious. Whether or not it happens after 1 day or 2, I mean, time will tell. But still, I really will say that this game is going to be a financial failure. When it comes to commercially, I mean, I don't control the narrative, right? The journalists, they're out there pushing that it's a win no matter what anyway. So it doesn't matter what we say. Dragon Age Veilguard, Bioware's latest release, went on sale early today, has achieved 41,000. Like I said, I showed you the real numbers at time of filming. It's 70,039. And then it says that Atlas revealed that Metaphor ReFantazio sold 1 million copies in the first day. Now, Metaphor ReFantazio had very similar numbers. I think it was at 70 some odd thousand. Oh, okay, 85,961. So this game has 85,961 concurrent million copies in 1 day. Maybe we'll have the same story with Bioware. Who really knows? I don't know. I just don't see how that's possible. I don't see how that translates to 1 million sales, but you only have 70,000 concurrent players. Something just seems odd to me. Even with Metaphor ReFantazio, how the hell did you sell 1 million copies and you have 85,000 concurrent players? Where the hell is everybody else? Did they just not show up? Did you just buy the game and said, fuck it, I'm just going to let it sit there? It just seems very weird to me. So these numbers never quite made any sense to me. But again, I guess it's across all platforms, so that's why they're doing it. Ultimately, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, I don't think is going to be a financial success in the slightest. Their budget is just way too high, and I don't see them selling the copies needed in order to break even. Because after you account for the fact of Steam's cut, which is 30%, and then you have other retailers as well who are selling the game, I just don't see how this is going to account for anything that's going to be substantial enough to make back an almost $300 million budget on a game that took 10 years to develop. I just don't see it. But time will tell. Maybe with DLCs, right? Maybe with, years of updates and whatever. If they plan to do this with this game, maybe they'll get their money back and break even at some point. But at the end of the day, this could have been so much better, so much more successful, and so much more loved, to be honest with you, from people who are actual fans of Dragon Age. I stand by my statements where I said if this game gave fans what they wanted, and it was an actual real Dragon Age game and not a Fortnite God of War simulator version of it, you would have had well into the hundreds of thousands of players easily on this game, on a Dragon Age game, which again, keep in mind, Dragon Age has never done super well on Steam. If you look at their numbers on Steam, all of them are very, very low numbers. This is actually the highest Dragon Age game ever, and that's simply because Steam is a lot more accessible these days, and people PC game a lot more than they used to. But ultimately, this is still not that great of a number considering the target audience that they wanted and what they were trying to reach. But is it a bad number? Absolutely not. I will never lie and say 70,000 players is a bad number. This is a good number, in my opinion, for a concurrent player. Let's see how long it lasts, but it's a single player game. Who really knows? But let's see how long all of this lasts. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.